Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Clause YouTube channel, Strategic Frontlines. Today we have with us Major General Sudhakar ji, VSM retired. He is an expert on India-China relations, geopolitics, neighborhood, and national security. We also have with us Rear Admiral Girish Garg, VSM retired, who is an expert in geopolitics, Indo-Pacific, and maritime issues. I welcome both of you to this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we are going to discuss today the feasibility of blocking of Strait of Hormuz and its impact. It can be economic impact, political impact, how the oil trade is going to be impacted. All those things we are going to discuss. As we know that Iran's parliament has approved the proposal of blocking the Strait of Hormuz, and it has to be cleared by the Supreme National Security Council. We know that Strait of Hormuz is surrounded by major oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, UAE, and the strait is in territorial waters of Iran and Oman. Since the width is very narrow, it's I think about 3 kilometers, so the ships can be vulnerable to attack. And we also know that US Fifth Fleet is stationed in Bahrain. As far as economics is concerned, the EIA has estimated that in 2024 itself, 80% of the crude oil and 83% of the liquefied natural gas passed through this strait, and that went to Asian markets. And the major beneficiaries were China, India, Japan, and South Korea. And that was basically for crude oil, and about 69% was other things. So it's a crucial and a very critical choke point. So I would start by asking a question to Rear Admiral Garg. What do you think? Is it feasible and desirable to block the Hormuz? Because even during Iran and Iraq war, it was not closed. And suppose if it is done, what method will be adopted? Do you think that Iran has the A2A, that is anti-access area denial capability in this area? So if you can explain to us in detail, like what are the capabilities of Iran and how it can act in the Strait of Hormuz, all yours now.
Thank you, Roshan, firstly, for inviting me to this podcast. It is certainly a pleasure and an honor. Coming to your question, is it desirable, you asked, for anyone, for Iran to block the Strait of Hormuz? I would say that it will be foolhardy for Iran to try and block the Strait of Hormuz. I have primarily four reasons to believe that. Firstly, it would be a self goal for Iran, because almost 25% of Iran's GDP comes from oil and oil product export. So they will be affecting their own economy by doing that. Secondly, as you brought out, that the Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf to the rest of the world. So it will not only affect Iran, but as you mentioned, all the other countries of the Middle East, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi, Qatar, they are also economies heavily dependent on oil and gas exports, and even their economy will be adversely affected. So Iran, in my opinion, risks antagonizing these OPEC countries, which I don't think, as a responsible and important member of OPEC, Iran would like to do. Thirdly, it will antagonize China. Now, when I say antagonize China, I say that because ever since the US sanctions were imposed on Iran, its customer base for its oil reduced. And China, of course, lapped it all up, and China is getting majority of its oil, almost 50% of its oil supply from Iran, because they're getting it cheaper, of course, like we do with Russia. They do it with Iran and they get much cheaper. So, of course, if this blockade is enforced by Iran, China will be very badly affected. And I don't think Iran would like to antagonize China, which I would say is one of his friends. Iran doesn't have too many friends in today's geopolitics. So I don't think it would like to antagonize China. And my fourth point, which I feel why Iran may not seriously pursue this option of blockade, is that within the Middle East, they have made a lot of diplomatic gains with the UAE and Saudi Arabia. You would have seen in yesterday and today, Saudi Arabia and UAE have publicly condemned Israel attack on Iran. You've seen that in the public domain. They have publicly condemned Israel attack on Iran. Now, by blockading again, they're discomforting, antagonizing these two nations, which I think diplomatically, they've won these two countries. They won't, again, as I said, they have fewer friends. They won't like to antagonize. So I think if you are to answer your question, to summarize, I don't think it is in Iran's own interest, economically, politically, to have a full blockade of the Gulf of Hormuz, Strait of Hormuz. Coming to the second part of your question, can Iran do it? Yes. Short answer, yes. Why? Because Strait of Hormuz at its narrowest point is just 30 to 33 kilometer wide, which is, if you see the maritime domain, it's like a single lane highway. I mean, if you have to compare it with a layman's understanding of road infrastructure, it will be akin to I would say a single lane road on the land, 33 kilometers. So now, also another thing, because it's just 33 kilometer wide and there are narrow patches, there is something called as TSS, traffic separation schemes, which are there in all these straits. Basically, it's like a highway. You divide, you make a lane for the inbound traffic and make a lane for the outbound traffic. It's called TSS. It's just 2 nautical mile each, that with 3 kilometers. So 3 kilometer passage to go up, 3 kilometer passage to come back. Basically you are constraining, you are restricting the entire traffic to that 3 kilometer traffic separation zone. So it's very easy to target ships. You don't have to go all over the Persian Gulf or all over the 33 kilometer stretch of Strait of Hormuz. Just restrict yourself to this 6 kilometer wide channel, and you can bring the complete traffic to a halt. Can they do it? Yes, very much, because it doesn't take much to block a channel. They have a very, very lethal arsenal of fast attack boats, which can move at the speed of 70 knots, 80 knots. They claim to have exceeded 100 knots, but as a naval officer, I think it's not very feasible to have boats running at 90, 100 knots, which is in excess of 100 kilometers an hour. But they claim that they have that capability. But at certainly 60, 70 knots, fast attack crafts and fast patrol boats, they have suicidal capacities. I mean, they have loaded with ammunition. They are unmanned, so they don't have. They're remotely controlled. They can just go and bang into any ship. They have suicide drones. They have long range missiles. They have missiles of all kind of capabilities. They have short range missiles, medium range missiles, long range missiles. So 33 kilometer range. Even if they go from other end of Iran and they fire a missile 500, 600 kilometer, very easily accessible. So as far as enforcing a blockade is concerned, yes, they can do it. Now the next question will come: will they be allowed to do it? The world will certainly not sit with its hands tied. It's one nation against the rest of the world. So
Yes.
certainly, Iran certainly cannot match the combined power of the rest of the world. We must also remember that the US Fifth Fleet and the US Naval
Yes.
Center headquarters is just next door in Bahrain.
Yes,
And
that is also correct. I'll come back to you with that, but first I would just like to bring in General Sudhakar, what General Garg rightly pointed out, that it will be difficult, it will not be difficult for them to block it, but if they desire it, then what will be the economic implications, if you can highlight, especially what will be the short-term implication if the disruptions takes place, what will be long-term implication, and how India is going to navigate through all these things.
Roshan, good evening. Thank you for getting me to this podcast. I I extend my gratitude to DigiClaws for having considered me capable enough to do justice to the subject, and also compliment my very distinguished co-panelist Girish. I know him for a long time, and he's so brilliant and cerebral. There's so much to learn from him. Okay, so the question which you have asked has got multiple subparts. But before I go into the question per se, just allow me to share my thoughts with the previous question. Regardless whether it is desirable or not desirable, my way of looking at things is, remaining prepared for criticality in the world order today. There is a huge geopolitical churn taking place all over the world, starting from Central Europe to Middle East. And Donald Trump came to power, that is 2.0, by making commitment to his constituency and the global dimension, or the global, I would say, the citizenry, by saying that he would bring the ongoing conflict, Russia-Ukraine, to a seizure, or bring about ceasefire within 24 hours, bring about ceasefire here between Hamas and Israel in a shortest possible time. Has that happened? It hasn't happened. Wasn't pandemic enough to assess the gravity and the criticality? I think it was enough. The rise in price of fuel, fertilizer, and food. Now you can say the supply chain disruption has led to so many disastrous consequences that, leave alone the livelihood, the existence of mankind is being pushed to a corner. So, under these circumstances, it would do good if we take that, whether it is desirable or not, whether they are capable or not. But Iran has been pushed to a corner, so much so that if you push a cat in the corner of a room, the cat, for its survival or the self-esteem, is will be left with no option but to pounce. So pouncing is, this Strait of Hormuz must be taken as the potential killing zone where it may turn into a global flashpoint. Whether it happens or not, it's a different issue. There are total 8 islands, like Girish has very rightly brought out. And out of 8, to the best of my understanding, when I was DDG MO Special Ops in service, I used to deal with the subject. Out of 8, 7 are supposed to be belonging to Iran. Iran has carried out extensive exercise of mining and mobilization of resources. It has got well established command, control, communication, coordination, and surveillance capability. I really don't know how much of surveillance architecture is left after air defense having been knocked off, but they claim that they do have. They have the ability, like Girish brought out, Admiral brought out, they can launch kinetic attack and disrupt the steady and stable flow of cargo or crude. So this is as far as the first question. I thought my pen is worth this thing, and hence the world order must be ready, because Iran will not take it lying. They are not going to surrender. Little while back, I was in one of the channels. It was announced, no sooner I gave out a statement that there is a hidden agenda of US and Israel for regime change. Before I could complete my sentence, the anchor started announcing, yes, there is a breaking news. The son of Shah has made a direct message to the Supremo that he should step down. So that is stepping down. You will understand the meaning and implication. Now come to the second question. That is the primary question which you have thrown today. Short-term, long-term economic impact. First and foremost, we must understand 20% of the oil oil and gas, and 42-45% of liquid natural gas of the supply to the world, and essentially predominantly to Asiatic countries, Asia, Southeast Asia, and Eastern Asia. Europe is also highly dependent, actually flows out from Persian Gulf or through the Strait of Hormuz. And when I say this, to answer your question more objectively, 54% of India's oil, they are supplied through this particular strait. And when I say 54%, there is a huge percentage of liquid and natural gas. Generally, all of us we know it comes from Qatar. And if this happens, if the blockade takes place, I am given to understand just prior to the podcast, I got in touch with very eminent and experts in the ministry. They have assured me that India is holding adequate stock. So when I asked him, what is the adequacy of the stock? He said 3 weeks. I said 3 weeks is not good enough. Russia and Ukraine, they thought the war would be over in 15 days. Now it has gone beyond this thing. So his reply was, even if there is a conflict breaking out in the subcontinent where India is going to be involved, we have diversified our oil and natural gas so much so that it is not going to impact our holding status as also our economy. This is what I have been told 5 minutes prior to the podcast. And some of the companies are holding 25 days, more than 25 days. Okay, that is the oil market. And also I have been given to understand by the some official known to me, 5.5 million barrel are consumed daily by the Indian economy. Out of 5.5 million barrels, 2 million barrels they come from the Middle East through the Strait of Hormuz. So as far as India is concerned, we are in a piggyback and nothing is going to happen. However, my curt response was, whether it happens or not, we should be ready for the worst eventuality. What is that worst eventuality? Almost close to 80 to 85% of our crude is being imported from world over. If the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, which are the other places from where we are getting major share of our oil crude? The West African coastline, Nigeria and such like places, the Latin America. We are in touch with Venezuela and such like. Look, Russia is a major share. From 2%, it has gone to 42%. Yes, that person also told me it's a high percentage and, and at a cheaper rate. So the Russia thing is open. So therefore, he gave me a very optimistic response that it is not going to impact our economy. Now, that is as far as the energy security goes. There are more issues than the energy security alone. What are the other issues? Other issues are we have 9 million or more people, Indian expatriates, who are there in Middle East. But if you talk about Iran and Israel, Iran, exact figure, I took it from the authorized agency, they say 11,000, but the open media sources are saying 10,000. Students, workers, etc.,
Yes.
etc. This is the rough figure. Israel, we have 25,000. Earlier, we used to have very negligible percentage. But post 7th October 2023, these numbers are increasing. Students are increasing, the research scholars are increasing, the working hand, domestic servants, caretakers, these are increasing by the day. And these are the people that we have. But barring these two countries, the rest of the spread of West Asia, we have close to, open media sources say close to 10, and authorized agencies are saying it's around 8.7 million diaspora who are there in the West Asia. They remit something close to 40% or more. Incidentally, for information of our viewers, since I am told it is going live, in past or the preceding 3 years, the remittances from the Indian diaspora is one of the largest in the world. We have almost about 32 million. 32 million people are remitting the remittances every year, which is crossed the figure of 130 billion. Latest is 129.4. Now I'm told about couple of half an hour back that it is going to cross 130 billion this year. That is the kind of remit. Out of 130 billion, almost about 40% or more are being remitted by this 9 million Indian diaspora in West Asia. This is
I,
going to,
what you're saying about diaspora, I understand, and you rightly pointed out about the economics and all those things. So I'll just get in. Yeah, see, this is the thing. What I wanted to show you, what you all were talking about, that this is the state of Hormuz. If we see and how narrow it is, and there are so many countries there's which are surrounding this. So the kind of blockade of Hormuz is will be a problem. And what you and Admiral Garg also stated, it will not be an easy thing to do. So here I'll just like to get in Admiral Garg, and I'll ask you, how is the geopolitics of the region going to play up? Because no country wants this thing to be blocked. And as you mentioned that US has got its fleet in Bahrain. So, and but do you feel that US is going to act? Because as far as they are concerned, only 7% of its trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. So if they are going to do that, how are they going to do that? And whether they will do it or not? And what are the other countries going to do? Because I know that the Iranian foreign minister had gone to Russia, and they also had a conversation, because we know that the Russian, the Chinese are supporting Iran, maybe not directly, but through various ways. We know that the Chinese cargo had gone to Iran for a few days back. So we know there are back channels and other things are taking place. So Admiral Garg, can you tell how it is going to pan out?
Yeah, Roshan, to answer your question, I must bring out a very peculiarity of the Persian Gulf. Unlike the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea, where we have this problem of Somali pirates, and there, there was a time when shipping through the Red Sea was a huge challenge because of the Somali pirates attacking, and it was almost like a blockade kind of a scenario in that. But the good part was that there the option was there. If the ships didn't want to use the Red Sea and traverse through the Somali waters, they could go around Africa and still reach the destination. It may take longer, it may be a little costlier, but yes, there was no disruption of oil flow or trade. Unfortunately, in the case of Persian Gulf, there is no such alternate route. They have to use the Strait of Hormuz or nothing else. There is no rerouting of ships possible. So that has a huge implication. When there is no alternate option, that means it's either Strait of Hormuz or nothing. So it's either you are in and out of or zero, which is I would say that it's not only problematic for the world, but it's also problematic for, as I said earlier, for the states which are within this Persian Gulf area who gets affected, because their trade. And please remember, it's not, we are only talking about outbound trade, oil, gas, we are looking at. Please remember that these countries are heavily dependent on the rest of the world and the shipping for container traffic into them, because they produce a lot of oil and gas. But for rest of the stuff, they're dependent on the rest of the world. So whilst the world will get affected by not getting oil and gas through them, the life for the people in this Middle East who are all dependent on Hormuz will be adversely affected, because their day-to-day life and day-to-day supplies which come through the container traffic through the cargo ships will also get adversely affected. So apart from the oil affecting their economy, even this trade disruption will affect their economy and the general quality of life of their own people, and they will find that the people themselves will start, after a certain point in time, because their lives will be affected, the daily lives will be affected. You will find that the people in these countries will also start protesting, and there will be pressure on the governments and therefore on Iran to get away with this blockade, if they ever decide to do it in whatever way. So that is one major impact that I feel will have. And therefore, one more reason why I said that probably Iran will not do. And Iran has been threatening in the past many a times, but they have never actually practically done that. So I think that wiser sense will prevail. Now, coming to your question, whether US will intervene or US will not
Yes.
intervene. To say that just 7% of US oil comes from Gulf, so US will not intervene. The problem with US is its big brotherly attitude. When you have this big brotherly attitude, you think I am the king of the world and I am the master of the world, then you put your finger where it is not required, just to prove that you are the boss of the world. So that is the problem with US, and especially it's a unipolar world. So it wants to assert its supremacy and say, "Bacha, मैं तुम सबको देखूंगा." So whether it is 7% or 5%, US will, because finally, if tomorrow Iran does blockade Hormuz, it is primarily because of the United States of America or Israel, you can say, but probably because of involvement of United States of America directly or through Israel. So US, if tomorrow Israel decides to impose the blockade which they are threatening, it is directly a challenge to United States of America. And if US does not act, it is like giving a hands up to Iran, which of course US will not tolerate. So US will of course get into it in full might. There is no absolutely doubt in my mind about that part. And because US will get into it, US doesn't do anything alone. So it will with all these cronies, all these nations who will get in. We have seen in Afghanistan, we have seen in Iraq, wherever we see they attacked 9/11, they attacked US towers, but US got the whole world together. Who were not affected by 9/11, they all pulled in and they all went into Afghanistan, and so I don't think US will do it alone. US will, I would say, coerce so-called partners to join, so that it looks like a global war on, they'll give some term terrorism or whatever name they will give. They'll say it's a global fight. It's not US versus Iran. It's rest of the world versus Iran. So they will make Iran the murga. They will collect the world's powers. They have these coalition partners. They will all join. There'll be a multinational force, and the might of all these combined will fall on Iran. They will bomb the shit out of Iran, and I'm sure it will be a full-fledged war. They're already attacking nuclear sites. So, I mean, the biggest threat is to a nuclear installation, that nuclear addition take place. So they're already bombing nuclear sites. So once you're bombing nuclear sites, rest of the things are all, minor issues. You bomb a ship or aircraft. I mean, we all hear nuclear war, nuclear radiation. So they already crossed that red line. So I think, I don't think that will be so much a challenge. It will happen, but and of course, if they do it, I can tell you, if the might of the world falls on Iran, their naval forces, their IRIGC, whatever navy they have, will be annihilated. Of course, how long can a single nation survive this might of the world? So it will be a matter of time, maybe a few days, a week, depends upon the resilience of that navy. But certainly it will be made ineffective within a week or 10 days. That's my take.
Okay. I'd like to bring in General Sudhakar here, and you can comment on these things if you want on the previous question. But I would also like to ask you two questions. The first is, can you highlight, is it possible to have pipeline as an alternative? Because Saudi East-West pipelines, UAE, Abu Dhabi, Fujairah, and the Saudi Omani land routes, how potent are they? And the second question, what I want to ask you is, there's a lot of rumor, or you say talk going on about the changing regime. That US wants to change the regime of Iran. Sometimes they say they don't want to do it. Sometimes they say they want to change it. So that also, if you can throw some light on.
Okay, so what I'll do is, let me answer these two questions first, and thereafter I'll go back to the geopolitical churn the current imbroglio or the ongoing conflict will lead to. Okay, let me answer the question. So first one is about the pipeline. Very good thought. If done, it will help us to circumvent, but very tall order. We started, there's an agreement, TAPI, TAPI, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India. India has withdrawn to the best of my understanding and knowledge. If I am wrong, then I'm open to corrections. Between Afghanistan and Pakistan, TAPI, sorry, TAPI, yeah, correct. One of the countries is backing out. So it's a non-implementable, it's hanging fire for past several years, more than 30 years, I suppose. So it's not going to work out. Now you come to the nearest parallel which comes to my mind to answer your question is this issue was debated and it was discussed in a closed room discussions about 3 months back. Today we are in June, maybe March, April. Okay. And this was an extension of the IMEC. India, you have a Middle East economic corridor. So there was a very, I would say, detailed deliberation as to how a pipeline can be made and how it will help India to circumvent such kind of challenges in future. But somehow this has gone into a cold storage, not because of finances, not because of vision, but because of the challenges which are actually coming about. Every second, third day there are new challenges. And to make a pipeline underwater, though not a new thing, but it is very, very challenging and it is prone to lots of interference. So you all will be able to connect the dots. Piracy, terrorism, lots of things are taking place. This belt is turning into a very hotly contested or a region of rivalry, strategic rivalry and non-strategic rivalry, kinetic, non-kinetic attacks, gray zone warfare. So therefore, whether it is going to be profitable or productive to have a pipeline or not is a question which we have to answer and go ahead. In any case, this question actually relates to a long-term perspective plan. It does not give you any immediate solution. The second question which you asked was, sorry, can you repeat the second question so that I can go to? You gone mute. You gone, Roshan. You gone mute.
I wanted to ask you if you want to say anything about the geopolitics of the region. Like there are so
Yes,
many countries,
yes, certainly,
pressure
certainly. See,
points will be there, and if you want to talk anything about the change of regime for
yeah,
Iran.
yeah.
So,
A change of regime. Let me kill the issue. It will happen. Even if it doesn't happen, I mean, nobody likes to go away from or depart from a well established, predictable way of life. No matter, Iran may not be the best of the regimes currently, but still people are used to it. 30 years is a long time. The present Supremo is holding them together despite all challenges, despite all dissension and disrespect to the current regime. Okay. So, something, the current status will, the people will still prefer to go. There was a survey carried out unofficially, around 65, 67% people, or close to more than 60% people are in favor of the current regime. But this regime will change. The hidden agenda of America and Israel must be understood in a holistic context. Take your mind back to 1997. In 1997, there was a committee. It was a bipartisan document. It's a classified document called as Clean Break. One of the highlights of this document was that there is no place for Palestine in Middle East. That's why you would have seen that Netanyahu, whenever he has gone on to international stature of any speech, he is always holding one map in his hand, whether in 2023 in UNGA or 2024 September. In all these maps, there is no place for Palestine. That is why when Donald Trump came back to power in 2.0, all of us would have heard him saying that he would like to send Palestinians to Indonesia, to Egypt, to Saudi Arabia, Jordan. Most of us would have heard. So it is some kind of a sprinkling of these ideas being thrown out just to sensitize the environment. The regime change will take place. But is the regime change an answer? That is what my question is. When the regime change took place in Iraq, Iraq was left as absolutely as a broken society. Today, they have not been able to come back from that stone age, which was
I
over.
agree. I agree with you. Regime
Last point
change.
about
Yes.
the geopolitics, very quickly. The geopolitics is already changing. We are not in 20th century, we are in 21st century. The threat which was there in 20th century is not the same threat in 21st century. In 20th century, we had bipolar world. This is geopolitics. Making use of geopolitics, America was successful to disintegrate the Soviet Union. And thereafter, we all thought that the unipolar world, today we all of us are convinced that USA is no longer the same strong USA we saw in Cold War 1.0. We are in Cold War 2.0. It is called as a declining superpower. You name any place, wherever they have put their foot, they have not come back successful from there, or wherever they have carried out regime change, the countries are not flourishing. Perhaps in their design of things, the hallmark of a superpower is the Thucydide trap. What is Thucydide trap? Thucydide trap of Professor Allison, Graham Allison, says that any accomplished or established power will not allow or permit any rising power to come up to its footing. This is called Thucydide power. He's carried out a study of 500 years back. There are 16 cases. Out of 16, 12 countries have gone to war. So, therefore, what I'm coming to is this particular clash of civilization, or whatever you call it, has already led to division, polarization. Polarization was already existing. There are new alliances which are forming. There are multipolar world which is actually coming into existence. Polycentric, form of governance and the states. Like you have country like Russia, you have country like China, you have something like Iran. North Korea is also sticking its head out. India is turning out to be a big center of gravity as regards to credibility and reliability. Such like South Africa, you have Brazil. So these are the polycentric, manifestation of the centers of excellence. But that doesn't mean that they enjoy or have that power and authority to influence the countries which are dependent on them. It requires, even China today is not in a position to influence the countries. By virtue
So
of
that
money, yeah.
yeah.
So
So that
therefore,
brings me
Iran,
to the
Iran के साथ
important.
North Korea, China, Russia, they have already explicitly shown their hands. They are supporting Iran. These are the groups which are coming up.
Yes, that's what I was also about to ask. The question here is that there has been an alternate, what do you call it, grouping, which has come out is China, Russia, Iran. So the question now which arises is, if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked by Iran, then China is the one which is going to be impacted the most economically. So, considering that Russia and China are Iran and China are so close, will Iran like to do that? That is the question. And even for that matter, Russia, how will Russia intervene in this thing? That is the thing I wanted to ask you. First, I would prefer Rear Admiral
Admiral, yeah.
Garg and then General.
Yeah, thank you, Roshan. I would just like to give my very brief about this pipeline issue. It's a very natural question which any layman will ask. कि अगर जहाज से तेल नहीं जा सकता तो pipeline से ले जाओ. I mean, it's a very natural question for a layman to ask. कि why are we fretting about getting ship? What is so great about ship? Let's lay pipeline over the land and let's take. I wish it was so simple. The world is not a fool that they rely on ships and don't rely. If there are pipelines across the globe, even now from the Persian Gulf there are pipelines, and I was reading somewhere that presently these pipelines which are presently running have a spare capacity of around 2.6 million barrels per day they can take. Where today the Strait of Hormuz is handling around 20 million barrels a day. Probably these pipelines can take additional 2.6, which is around 10%. But the problem is that we think that if we have pipelines, then the problem of blockage of Strait of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea, Houthis, all this will come to an end. Oil will flow easily. Just have a look at what's happening in Russia and Ukraine war. Russia has a network of pipelines to Europe through Ukraine, and see what they have. All the pipelines are shut today. It's not shut by Russia. It's not. If the receivers were stopped using those pipe, the beneficiaries have stopped using it. It's the other way around. Here, the aggressor, the person who's affected, is trying to block the Strait of Hormuz. You see the pipeline diplomacy, wherein the supplier is saying, "I'll supply," the receiver is saying, "I'll not receive, I'll not take pipeline." So it is not that the pipelines are not susceptible to disruptions. I would say they are far more susceptible to disruption than by sea. That is the first point. Secondly, pipelines are extremely costly to lay. World, if it were very cheap, everybody would have used pipelines and given a kick to the ships, get out. It is not economically viable. That is why pipelines are not there. Plus, the pipeline passes through multiple countries. Each country wants its share of, royalty. That was one of the gentlemen mentioned about TAPI. TAPI, one of the issues got stuck was because of royalty issues. Why it was passing through Pakistan, and there were royalty issues. We could never agree on it. So pipeline, while it may look very simple, in my opinion, it is far more complicated solution than getting oil by sea, and that is why the world resorts to it. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say about the pipeline issue. Now, coming to your question about Russia and China, I already brought out that China's almost 50% of oil comes from Iran, and certainly, China is one of the friends of Iran. So Iran would be foolhardy to try and block Hormuz and affect China. So that's one of the reasons why Iran, in my opinion, would not try and do something foolhardy in the Strait of Hormuz. As far as Russia is concerned, I feel that Russia, if you ask me, I would say that Russia is in a beneficial position if they block, because then Russian oil will become more in demand. The Russian oil will be completely bypassing Strait of Hormuz. So if the world has to look left and right, कि अब तेल कहाँ से लें, one of the better options is Russia. So Russia's, if you ask me, stands to gain from all this chaos. And if I was a Russian, I would encourage Iran to go and block Hormuz. But geopolitics, of course, doesn't work on economic interests alone. So probably because of geopolitics, Russia may not want Iran to block, because of course Russia has already complicated its life with Ukraine and they don't want another front this side. So probably, as far as China is concerned, certainly there is no. As far as Russia is concerned, it depends upon if they view purely economically. If Russia views purely in economic terms, yes, it's beneficial for them. They get more oil to flow, and Trump will have to look the other way around. Or the world, Europe and all are making so much of noise about oil from Russia. They are suffering in winters now. They'll start suffering in summer also. Then they will also have to close their eye and probably take some oil from Russia and some bargain. So probably economically, if you look at it, Russia should be happy. But geopolitically, yeah, because Iran is one of the friends, or so-called friends, or you can say allies of Iran. So geopolitically or geostrategically, they may not want Iran to do this. And if I was on Russian side, through back channels, I would advise Iranian leadership to back off.
Sudhakar, would you like to comment something? You're muted.
Mute. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, my pen is worth. But before I come to the issue of geopolitics, how it is going to impact Strait of Hormuz, whether Russia and China also will support Iran or not, let me very quickly, because I've just got a message from some, I don't know, somebody is listening, got my number. Okay, let me give out. The geopolitics, relevance of geopolitics in 20th century has gravitated towards geoeconomics. Just to exemplify what I'm saying, the two-way trade between Middle East and India till recently was $170 billion. In past 2 to 3 years, what we had with Israel in 2017 was around 14 billion. It has come down to 1.4 billion last year. And Sorry, this I am telling about the Iran. Now, with the Israel, it was 11 billion in 2022. Now, because of the current situation, conflict-like situation, it has come down to 3.75 billion. Okay, so this is how the geoeconomics is manifesting because of the conflict situation. Now, coming to the issue which you have highlighted, the groups which are forming, which are in support of Iran, are basically the global south. You say, except for India, I don't think there is any country in global south which does not or which has not shown a soft corner towards Iran during this stage of getting, being pounded by Israel and America. Okay. And every country, without any exception, including some of the European countries, have condemned the way the nuclear installations have been pounded by USA. Okay. Iran has kept it, oh, sorry, India has kept quiet as far as the Shanghai Cooperation platform stance was concerned. We haven't said anything. We have not condemned Israel because both Israel and Iran both are friendly to India, despite couple of fault lines with Iran. And also there is a BRICS summit which is around the corner, 7th, I think 6th, 7th July, if I'm not wrong. And just imagine if you go country by country, including the latest 5 members who have been added, uh, each of them are going to be giving supporting statement. And if BRIC as a platform gives out a statement condemning the aerial attack by USA and Israel against Iran, and if India doesn't say anything, then it is going to put India in a very, very complex and a kind of a embarrassing situation. So why am I highlighting this? I'm highlighting to respond to your question. What happens? Will Russia and China support Iran to go ahead with the blockade of Strait of Hormuz? I don't think so. No country would ever do it because they directly or indirectly, like Admiral said very rightly, in the backhand diplomacy, perhaps Russia would be, telling Iran, please don't do it. It's a foolhardy decision. You are going to be, taken back in time to a stone age. You'll be pounded,
Yes.
hounded. Your regime will change. But my gut feeling is, if I am an Iranian, every Iranian today is behaving like a soldier. It is do or die. They are not going to surrender. They want to redeem the humiliation they have been subjected to, not now, for several years. There is one needs to understand there is a triangle of supremacy in the Arabic world or the Muslim world. What is this triangle? In the Muslim world, there are three countries which are in contestation. One is Saudi Arabia, the second is the Turkey or Turkey, and the third one is Iran. Iran, despite being a Shia dominated country, it has been extending support to Hamas. Hamas are Sunnis, and giving a loud and clear message to Saudi Arabia and Turkey that you people are Sunni dominated. You haven't actually contested or extended your objective for crystallization in favor of a piece of land for the Palestinians. Despite the fact that I am a Shia dominated society, I am supporting the Hamas. I am supporting the cause of the Palestinian. In the Muslim world, there is so much of contestation for securing this leadership role or the Ummah's role. It is that factor which is going to force Iran to go in to do what we are anticipating that it may not do. Therefore, I'm convinced that it may be 2 days, it may be 3 days, it may be one day, it may be a couple of hours. We should all be prepared world over that the Strait of Hormuz will be subjected to some kind of a blockade, a big interference, which will have an economic ramification. Whether Russia, China support or not, North Korea will surely support. So there are countries within global south who will be supporting Iran for the larger cause of the geoeconomic and the disruption which it is causing from pandemic onwards till now and in times ahead as well. Thank you so much.
I think Iran's options are getting lesser and lesser. We'll take few questions now, and this question is from General Dushyant Singh. He is the DG of Clause, and he wants to know: do all the proxies of Iran have the strength to hit covertly on US and Israel? I would like your opinion, from both
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah, Admiral, you may like to. Sir is diseased, so he's been my commandant. So I'll take a second option to
Yeah.
respond. You can take. Yeah.
General Dushyant sir, thank you for the question. And I think, in my view, the proxies of Iran, who are the proxies of Iran? If we identify that, then we know the answer automatically. So, proxies of Iran, one are non-state actors. People like the Houthis, the Hezbollah. They are the people who are prodded and born and brought up by Iran. So if you look at those non-state actors, yes, they have been doing it, hitting U.S. assets and global assets covertly wherever they get a chance. So non-state actors, of course. If you mean, when I extend the definition of proxies to say supporters, we discussed China supporting or Russia supporting. Should they decide to join Iran? Should Iran exercise, as General Sudhakar ji brought out, that just to placate its people, they may try and blockade the Strait of Hormuz. Well, they know that it is a societal mission, but sometimes people's sentiments play a larger role. Should they do that? And should, as we were discussing earlier, that is partners, or you can say allies or friends like China and Russia, do they have the capability? Firstly, will they directly get involved in this conflict? Should it happen? I have my doubts. Whilst they militarily, directly, state actors would not. They have the capability, certainly, to answer your question. They certainly have the state actors. Whether we are looking at primarily China and North Korea and Russia, they certainly have the ability to covertly attack US and Israel. But will they like to do it? Because in today's world, nothing is covert. It may be covert, but in today's world, everything is overt. Covert is just in the mind. So yes, non-state actors, 100%, they have been doing it and they can still do it. State actors, they can do it, but I don't think they'll do it.
May I,
General
Roshan?
Sudhakar, could you?
Yeah,
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 you
yeah.
can.
In short, this question has been framed, as always, with a lot of thought. So every word matters. It has got a lot of depth and meaning. In short, the answer is yes. I'm just back from US. The entire US has started getting polarized. They have started anticipating a threat from Lashkar-e-Taiba, from Jaish-e-Mohammed, from ISIS. ISIS has penetrated into the system, the way of life of Americans so deeply that what internet is to be thought as a very safe and secure kind of a medium of communication, the same internet is turning out to be a source of indoctrination. So USA is seized with the problem. I hope they are seized with the problem. They have opened a new Pandora box. I am firmly of the view that the proxies, who are the proxies of Iran? You have Houthis, you have Hamas, you have Hezbollah, and the fourth one we miss out quite often with Hashad al-Shabi. Hashad al-Shabi, the commander was none other than late General Qasim Soleimani, who's been neutralized. And this Hashab al-Shabi came into existence after Syria fell into civil war following the 2011 protests, which also saw the rise of Islamic State in Syria and Iraq. So why am I saying this? I'm more than convinced. Sooner or later, USA will become a target. We may call it a covert operation, or for all you know, as times are changing, gray zone is also started assuming the profile of an overt operation. So they should be prepared. I personally feel, as a military man, USA and Israel should be. Israel today, like we have been giving nine, not nine, 10 out of 10 to Mossad. Let's not underestimate the int agency of Iran. IRGC is not toilet paper. They're very capable, battle-hardened people. They also have an int core. It's a different issue that the security apparatus has got compromised. The top leaders, they have been subjected to selected killing or targeted killing. They have also equal number of penetration into the existing society of Israel. There are not moles. There are terrorists who are operating in West Bank, in Gaza itself, south of Lebanon, all these places. That is why the very concept of that clean break, it means that there is no place for Palestinians. They want to actually push them out and make Israel as the satellite post of USA, predominate its objective and its influence in the entire Middle East and secure Abraham Accord at the earliest.
Yes. There's another question by Ajay Kumar Agarwal. He says, as in this situation, will the Shia-Sunni equation rivalry play any role between the two spiritual leaders? He's talking about Iran and Saudi Arabia. A quick answer to that.
My quick reflection on the question is that Shia Sunni is a war, a rivalry which has been going on for past 1400 years. It is simply impossible to bring them together. It will only spiral towards a very deeper, fault line. That's it.
Anything you want to add, Admiral Garg?
No, I am not a scholar of Shia Sunni equation, so I would go with what General Sudhakar ji.
No. On the contrary, Admiral, and on the contrary, I have been president of a multinational company in Oman. I've been there, so I've had the fortune of traveling and understanding. Do you know in the year 2022 or 23, there are 31 crores population in the West Asia, 31 crores. Out of 31 crore, 15 crore people had booked online through Amazon. They bought, what document? Can you make a wild guess? Roshan,
No.
any idea?
No.
They bought Bhagavad Gita.
Oh.
Out
That's-
of 31 crore, 15 crores have bought. You can Google up and check it up.
Yes.
And out of 15 crore, there is a major share, close to 85 to 90% people in Saudi Arabia. It is supposed to be the Wahhabi, the epicenter of Wahhabi culture. They have gone in. The Crown Prince actually has to be commended. The kind of a revolutionary change this man is, from extremism to liberalism, the way he's bringing about. Bhagavad Gita, why? He has studied Bhagavad Gita. He may not have studied the Quran. Nobody, I don't think Middle East people, everyone has read the Quran. Pakistanis, they don't know what Quran is. Okay,
No,
so
I think.
yeah. So
the
basically,
there is very
I
progressive.
have given it a negative this thing. It is not going to patch up so soon. It is an ongoing, eternal battle and conflict. But there are positive things taking place in Middle East as well. UAE,
Yes.
Saudi Arabia, such like an Abraham Accord, meaning what? The ultimate meaning is to extend and spread the liberal democracy into an extremist kind of a society. It's a conflict between the democracy. That's my way of looking at things. Democracy
I think-
and extremism.
Yes, I think a lot of things I have realized this world is very unpredictable. You don't know what is going to happen. You think something and something else happen. So let's hope for the best, and let's hope that Iran and Israel both come to the negotiation table and this ends, because it is not going to help either of the nations, because Iran is also attacking Israel. We know that Israel dome is not working that much. They are also having casualties. So I hope that good sense
Roshan,
prevails.
one point only. Please don't mind. While we are talking something about sensitive issue about the Strait of Hormuz, so let's not lose our sight as to what is happening towards Taiwan. And as soon as the aircraft carrier was moved from Guam base or the South China Sea towards the Middle East, China has been actually moving its the fighter aircrafts into Taiwan, has also started, speeding up the preparatory activities of reunifying Taiwan. And
I think-
my conviction,
Yeah.
last line is conviction is he may not wait till 2027, where he's completing that year. He's completing the third tenure. Maybe 2025 could be taken as a year where he can actually make a serious attempt to reunify Taiwan. Whether it happens or not, it's a different issue. But
I
Big,
think
big.
that is a debate for another podcast, and probably we'll
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
that podcast soon, and we'll invite you. But thank you so much, Admiral Garg and General Sudhakar, for this podcast. I really appreciate your time to come and speak. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Roshan,
you.
for conducting a very, very engaging session. You conducted very well, and I must thank you. And thank you, General Sudhakar sir. Also, I am also enlightened by attending this podcast. I really like you and your vision and your thoughts. Thank you, sir.
Girish, as always, you are the bright and the brilliant I have come across. And thank you, Roshan, for anchoring the discussion. It's quite a sensitive subject, and must extend our gratitude to DG Claus for having thought about the issue and conducted this particular podcast at a very short notice. There are many more things
Yes.
which will unfold within next 24 to 48 hours. We'll see changes.
Yes.
For all you know, that this blockade or the Strait of Hormuz may not be subjected to that kind of activity by Iran, which we have discussed today. But our primary aim was to prepare ourselves in the world that the worst criticality is going to happen if it is blocked. Are we prepared to face it?
Yes.
That is the
Actually, the
question.
primary aim was to discuss all the aspects
Yeah.
of this particular thing. So, thank you so much once again. Thanks.
Thank you, Roshan.
Thank you. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, Roshan.
Yes, sir.